like I was telling you a little bit earlier, I really wrote the book in like 2 days. Not even gonna hold you up. I think I started on like a Monday and it was like done by Wednesday. And we go back and we edit things and we change a lot, but the original content, it only took me like 48 hours.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, that's God. There's no way you can come up with like a story, like with a plot, like a beginning, a middle, an end, on your own that fast. I don't care what anybody says. I meet a lot of artists that just don't believe in that stuff, and I'm like, no, it's this was not me. This was like I just was being obedient and letting God use me and to be a tool to put this out. And so it didn't take me very long, but again, I was young and didn't have a lot of money. But when my dad got sick, and I just realized like all the work he never was able to really put out on any platforms and really make it like move and make ways for him, that is what really kicked my butt into gear. And I was like, I have to put this book out.
The Culture Convos podcast. I'm Don Root, and this is a podcast where I chat with some of my homies about what they're on or what they're up to, and then the culture surrounding it. So up next we have Chantell Rodgers, author, poet, mom, wife, amazing individual activist. I can't count the amount of years I've known you for, but it's been amazing to witness the journey more so than anything, like from just a undergraduate college kid to a wife working on her doctorate now. It's like the growth, the transition, the glow up, the grow up, or however you want to kind of phrase it, has been amazing. So if you can, just tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey to art.
Yeah, thanks so much, Dom. I feel like we met because we all started in 2010. And I feel like we all really met that year. So that was 12 years ago. Like, that really tells our age, because I for sure think we met that same year. A lot of us were like going to a lot of those Black clubs. And I think that's really when I tapped into my artistry, is when I got to ASU, believe it or not. And even though it is a PWI, a predominantly white institution, I feel like the BAC, the Black African Coalition, did a really good job of bringing that culture. I think that's when I really tapped into my artistry, because I did grow up in the church. And so I think when you're in the church, you have to sing, you have to dance, you have to play. Like, that stuff is just mandatory. But it almost didn't seem like I was talented. It was like, oh no, this is just like what we do. Like, this is Black church norm, right? And so, and I noticed a lot of people in my family could sing, and like there's a ton of singers in my family. Like, just gospel. Like, we're very big like in the gospel world. Like, one of my cousins, she's like a famous gospel singer. My uncle on my dad's side, Eddie James, I don't know if people know him. He's more like CCM, but he's great. Like, and that is just like the culture that I grew up in, like church, Afrocentric. Like, that was like my home life. And so then I used to go to these white schools and have to kind of like turn it off. And I remember like my journey with choir, singing was always like my first love. That's what I did. Even before I was like really writing, I was singing a lot. Again, from church, and then I'd go to school and sing. So I was always in choir. I remember being in choir like as early as you could. Like, I think like our 4th grade had like a choir, and I was in it. And then from that point on, I took choir all the way up into like sophomore year of high school, because I realized I was like, this is white and I just can't do what I need to do here, because it's not the same as church. And I specifically remember like at church, I'm a soprano, but then in school, they would stick me in the alto section, and I really struggled that lower tone. It just was like stuff that I really realized I was like, okay, everything is not for me. And so then I stopped doing choir, and I got into dance. I was a huge dancer. I loved dance, like even more than choir. Yeah, I danced for a long time, and people don't know that. It's so funny, but I used to have like dance concerts. It was like a thing. Like, I loved dance. Dance took me out of here. I was like, what is this? Like, I danced at ASU the first year. Like, I didn't do choir at ASU because I didn't like it. That chorus, it was just not my thing. But I did dance at ASU our freshman year, and I met like some really cool girls. But again, it was very different from how I grew up. And so then I stopped dancing once I got to ASU. After that first year, I just didn't really have time for it anymore. And then after that is when I started going to like Black artists and designers. I was in Stars. I was in a lot of different black clubs. And when I met you guys, that's when I was like, oh, I can write. This is lit. Like I would listen to you guys. And then I was like, whoa, like I can say these things like in a different way. Like I kind of have the same skill set. Because I used to write a little bit when I was younger. I remember I won this random poetry contest. Like I sent in a poem about a color and they emailed me back. They sent my mom $100 check, and that was like a thing. And I was like, oh, like this is a thing. Like this can this can open up doors for me. But I never really like tapped into it. I'm still singing in these choirs, dancing, like all this other stuff. And then when I got to college, it all kind of simmered out. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna write now. And so for a long time, like I just would link up with you. And really, I got to shout out Jay Tatum because she was the first person I really like. I think I want to say inspired me to actually start writing stuff down because a lot of this stuff would be in my head. I'm a really big fan of Issa Rae. And so Issa Rae
Mm,
is like black girl personified. You know how she's always like literally rapping to herself in the mirror? That
yeah.
is a real thing. But like you low key be going sometimes. And I'm like, wait, this is bars. I need to like write this stuff down. It's good. And so really like linking up with like you, Jay Tatum, a lot of the older people that were in black artists and designers, um, were just like spitting and doing poetry. And it was like, I was like, this is a whole new side that I can really tap into in my older years. And that's when I really got started. And so I used to do a lot of your events, actually, like your events and like Ken Kong used to host a lot of stuff that me and Jay would like randomly go to. But really, I feel like it was the black clubs at ASU that helped me tap into that artistry.
Oh, that's amazing. Shout out to you for kind of being able to chronicle that journey. It's like one, we're kind of similar, but more. I didn't dance in like high school or college, but like in middle school, like I definitely was like into crumping and like that clown dancing, like all that shit that they was doing out there. And I don't know, it went away, but I did find writing like soon after that, like so like that creative journey. It does involve like kind of just experimenting, and kind of going through different things. I definitely grew up in the church, but they didn't throw me in no choir to sing. Saying I was in all of the male discipline program. I don't know if they thought maybe because of my uncles, like the dudes in my family don't got a good track record, so I don't know if they believed like I was just gonna turn out negative, so they stuffed me in every like Daniel's posse. It was like a little male discipline group within the church, and I would go do other scholastic like ambassador programs, you know what I'm saying? So they're just like sending me around, making sure that I don't fucking lose it. But like, I
Yeah.
do appreciate my family for that because it did expose me to a lot. And throughout those like little experiences of like even how you put in, like you grew up in the church and you sang in the choir, but then you try choir in school and then you got to see how that's different, and you're like, yo, I really enjoyed it when I'm at the church and we can really hit them runs and like kind of go crazy. Whereas here it's just like, yo, someone getting ready to die, you're just looking around and it's just like
Seriously,
all
like funeral
dark
songs
and heavy.
though.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
100%. 100%.
That's a good like way to put it. You said if somebody get yes, that's literally how it was. Like, yeah, you're right. That's a whole it was different.
Definitely different. I mean, not that I mean, my experience with like hearing it is like I ran sound before. Like I grew up in the black church Christian. But like after ASU, I went to MCC for audio production to get my degree in sound design or associates in sound design. And more so just to learn about. I was self-taught, but I really needed like that extra little over the top just to kind of learn what was going on. And kind of in there I got a job because I was like, I'm much older than everybody at MCC, so like the knowledge I'm taking in, like I'm here for a reason. So I was like all A's, like I really wanted this information. So I ended up getting some jobs off of just being in class. Some of my teachers had other things going on, and one of them was a sound tech at like a Catholic church. And I'm not Catholic. I'm not too familiar with like some of the formalities that go on there, but like I know how to run sound and I know how to be nice to people. So I'm just there plugging in the cables, doing what I do. And just kind of in that experience, I'm just like listening to it's different. Everything is like on time and structured. There's no
Yes.
going off script, and I'm just so used to like, yo, church is 2 hours, but it's really like for, or whatever, whereas here that hour is an hour, and they're in out of there. So I definitely got to learn a little bit about like kind of how they differ and kind of change. So what's been something like throughout your art journey specifically that's been like an eye-opening experience for you? I mean, you probably touched on it in like the opening statement, but just like any few things that pop out to you that you've learned from the point in which you were like in the choir and dancing to which we're about to talk about next is you just released a book.
Yeah, I think, like you said, that's a big thing for me. The timing of things and just how like structured other cultures are. Like, I talk about how like when we go to different churches, like because I'm very, I'm gonna say I'm a churchy person, and so I don't mind like supporting my friends. I have a lot of friends in ministry, and I did notice that big culture shock. It's like now they don't play. Like you have to be you be where you say. Like so that actually really disciplined me, being in dance and being in choir in schools, like in those like club settings. So I think that's where I got a lot of my discipline, because it was not from, like you said, church is really going to be 4 hours. We might start at 11. We might start at 1. It's like, and that actually gave me the discipline as an artist, like being in school choirs. I used to do cheer, like random stuff. Like a lot of that stuff actually taught me my discipline. And I think that's why I can like show up and but also it was a lot of code switching. I talk about that a lot now in my older years. I feel like we were always code switching when we were little, but it makes it so we are very adaptable. Like you said, like I can be nice to people, and I basically know how to do these basic functions. So that's why you were able to like go work in a Catholic church and it wasn't weird for you. And I think a lot of that foundation actually came from when we were little, and I use that discipline, and because we are battling between those worlds. Like we go to these schools. I grew up in the East Valley, and so it was very white when we were coming up little, and I went to basically predominantly white schools my whole life, and so I don't ever really remember. I think high school was the most exposure I've had to urbanness, period. I went to McClintock, and so I went to McClintock from 2006 to 2010. And it was a lot of Black kids that came from South Phoenix that went to McClintock. And so that's when I was first exposed to like the Black culture outside of my house and like church and stuff like that. Like, so that was very interesting. And I think that's when I really started to like figure out what I wanted to do. I remember at one point I was like the president of the hip hop club, even though that was completely out of the norm for me. I was still able to associate with like my dance friends. It wasn't a lot of Black dancers at McClintock, not like that dance like almost professionally at that level, but it was like a hip hop club. And there, like at one point McClintock had a step team. And so that's where the Black girls were. And so in order to be able to blend those worlds, I had to dance like regularly for the school, but then also I had to join these clubs to actually have Black friends, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think that is a lot of my journey. And I'm so glad finally when I hit adulthood, I was able to just like, no, I'm going to be one person, and both of these worlds are going to have to like accept this. And so that is a big thing for me too, a part of my artistry journey. I feel like I was always like switching back and forth. But now I don't believe that I do that. I might a little bit, but I try to eliminate that code switching. I want to just be able to be present in who I am, in my art. I don't want to be having to like switch and things like that, which I felt like I had to do a lot, but it taught me a lot. And I think it made me the artist that I am now.
Right. And I remember that you kind of touched on that when you were sitting on the panel for the RootCon that we had in April, where you were talking about that back and forth type of thing. So kind of want to say thanks also again for doing that. Like you've always kind of shown up for the brand whenever we've asked you to come out and perform or kind of do something. Like, I don't know, dude, people have been so incredible to me, for no reason out here, and I appreciate it for sure. Like the conference like was just this pipe dream that the city of Tempe decided to like fund, and long term I am root, like I can see that for us, and I'm continuously working towards those things. So no, again, thank you for being a part of that like little dream of mine.
Thank you for having me. Like when I say like you are my homie, I mean it. Like you put me on, Dom. Like for a long time, I wasn't really getting booked or like getting asked to be a part of things because, a lot of that artistry was just so quiet. It was more like like I said, Issa Rae rapping in the mirror, like, and you're like,
Mm-hmm.
bro, I low key have bars. Nobody
Yeah.
knows, but you're like, I have pages of stuff that is actually good. And I think one of my first events that I really did was with you when you used to host a lot of that stuff in downtown Phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to win like a lot of your poetry contests, and like you would actually give me money. And I'm like, so this is like becoming a thing. So really, I definitely tell people that you were definitely my mentor, because I feel like you were ahead of our time for sure. Like, period. The events you were doing, like the level of artistry you were bringing in, and we were so young. Like, we're barely 30. Like, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? This was 10 years ago. You were
That's
doing
crazy.
this stuff
Yeah.
already. So I'm like, you've been lit forever. And so anytime you ask me to be anywhere, I'm for sure gonna pull up. Like,
Thank you. Nah, for sure. Yeah, even with I just thought back to the city of Tempe. We were doing some edge stuff there, and you pulled up. You and Brian pulled up for that. But no, yeah, no. Again, thanks, because like I remember when you first sent me I think it was an email. I want to say, send me an email with like 2 or 3 poems in it. You like, yo, I'm trying to fuck with this spoken word stuff. Like, here's some shit. Like, let me know what you think. And I don't remember the exact pieces now, but I remember the expression that I had, and it was like excitement. I'm checking it out, and I was like, yo, it's dope. Kind of being a part of that, like, it's a success story, but like that beginning story more so. It's like, yo, when you were just thinking about jumping out there too, now people are fucking fast forward to a Rebel Lounge show, and people are in the crowd like watching you go, and they're like snapping and going crazy to the things that you're saying, because you're telling stories that they can all kind of gravitate towards or like pull something from. And it's just like, that's, yeah, I mean, that's literally who I am. Like, when I think about like what my life has been, and kind of how my family has treated me. Like, I always tell the story. I played football in high school. I thought I was NFL bound, like, but like the school I went to, even before I got there, the varsity team had lost every game for 4 years straight. So there's no hopes for next level football, anything. But I had no idea. I'm just getting on the conveyor belt, thinking I'm the guy that's gonna turn it around or whatever. But like, even though we lost all those games, like, one thing that stood out for me was like my family was there through it all. They pulled up like 5, 10, 15 deep every week. You know what I'm saying? Just yelling, screaming for me, knowing that the outcome was going to be the outcome. But like, they'd just see me out there turning up, and they'd have my back. So like, whenever I felt an artist or someone that had some shit going on that they wanted to like do, hey, I want to try this. Like, my thing is, all right, for sure. Like, I hate being like, I didn't want to plan no Iron Root events. Like, just come see Dom. Like, that shit would have been whack to me. But like, I need like the homies or the people around me that say they want to do something. Yo, you want to DJ? I didn't really know Zill in high school, but when we got here, it was a nigga from LA. We was rapping, we was doing stuff. He DJ'd, and it's just like, all right, for sure. Well, shit, I'm gonna pull this venue together. I'm gonna flyer. We'll figure it out, and we'll make it happen. And I felt like, I don't know, during that time it all kind of fell together. It was just like that inspiration that just kind of flowed, just going off of vibes, and it was a great time. So yeah, no, we're super young, and it's so much more for us to like go, and accomplish and grow. So I do want to touch on the book, because like, as we talk about growth and that next step, like, we went from an email sent, of just some ideas, to actually getting on stage, like talking your shit, what I'm saying, like, before you were a mom, kind of manifesting your motherhood, and then now you are a
yes,
mom, what I'm saying, and then it's like, yo, you got a children's book. So I'm gonna hope it pops up here. We got the Praying House, just recently released. You can purchase it. I got
yes.
my copy on Amazon, but you can purchase, pretty much, you tell us, where can folks buy it?
Yeah, you can get it. Like Dom said, it's available on Amazon. It's available on barnesandnoble.com. And like I was telling Dom a little bit earlier, if we have people who are physically at Barnes and Noble, if enough people are requesting the book, they will put it physically in the stores. So that is my next goal. And then it's also available on readerhouse.com. And then you get 10% off on Reader House. And I don't think that affects like my profits in any way, to my knowledge. So wherever you guys want to buy it, whatever's easier, please go and support. We can drop the link tree after this, like whatever we need to do. But I was telling Dom a little bit earlier, I'm very grateful that the homies really showed up, like even the homies that don't have kids. And like, that it has been my experience with the artist community that we built at like ASU. Like you said, a lot of us, we've been rocking with each other for 10, 12 years. That's a long time. Like, it's people that do not have friends for that long. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I know for sure if I have something, you're gonna pull up. Like, I found a picture from I believe 2017, you
Mm.
came to my birthday party at California Pizza Kitchen, and
Oh
my
yeah.
dad was there. So stuff like that, like, my dad wasn't really active when I was younger. My parents had me extremely young. And so, we were all growing up together. But like the events that he did go to, which were not many, it's weird because like you were there. And I'm like, Dom is my actual homie. Like, you are my friend, bro. And I'm really grateful and I really appreciate you. You always like support. I was so happy when you got the book. I figured like my friends with kids would get the book because that makes sense. But it's like, no, like a ton of my homies that don't even have kids were like, nah, bro, I need you to sign this.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I don't want to have to wait, and then I'm like, okay, I got one on the way. I'm gonna go get it. Now it's already on the bookshelf. So, yeah,
Period. Yes. I love that. I really appreciate that, Dom. But yeah, it's been like a crazy journey. Like you said, it started from like, playing around with words, sending you an email to performing at your shows. And I think we talked about the transition that we both have went through a little bit. And I'm not going to say I'm done with poetry because I have another piece that I'm like working on and trying to get out that I think is going to be like even better. Right. Because that when I was older, when I was writing, I wrote it last year, like end of last year. So that's going to be really exciting. We can talk about that in a little bit. But yeah, I feel like we've definitely transitioned as an artist, and we have a lot of the same group of us have been a part of those transitions, like really moving and shaking. I tell people all the time, I'm like, nah, my friends are movers and shakers. Like, we do what we say we want to do, which I'm really proud to have that.
right. And on that topic, so you spoke a little bit earlier. You say you started the book in 2016, right? So,
Yes.
so between 2016 and today, what's been the biggest lesson for you out of like all of this? Like, from it just being notes on a pad to back and forth with the publisher to back and forth with yourself. Like, what's been one of the biggest lessons?
The biggest lesson I will say is that just put out your work. And I think like 2016 was a long time ago if you think about it. Honestly, like production for a book, I've seen it. Like I was able to watch firsthand the different phases that my book went through. It was not long. Like it was not long at all. And so I was telling Dom a little bit earlier that I linked up with Christian Faith Publishing Company, and it kind of all worked out. And so I started Googling like how to put out a children's picture book. And a lot of things were like, well, first you need to find a publishing company that will speak to the audience you're trying to like get your book out to. So I was like, okay, cool. It's like a Christian children's book. I need to look up the top companies that will get this out, at a quick amount of time. So they came up first, very reputable. I actually saw like a commercial of them.
Hmm.
And so you call them, they link you with like a specialist, you send your manuscript, they'll let you know if they want to put it out. They tell you it is one of the ones where you have to pay for them to do the editing, to put your stuff on the platforms. And so it just worked. It was like love at first sight. The book was done. I had to make a couple of changes back in the day, but it wasn't many. And then it just goes from there. As soon as you make your first payment, they start like editing, and you have to review everything that they do. They send it to you first before they can like move it through the next phase. And then I was telling Dom a little bit that back then I didn't have a lot of money, so I would like stop paying my payments, and then production would stop, and then it can't restart until you pay again. And my dad got sick in 2021, and he was sick for the entire year, and he just didn't make it out of that. He ended up passing in August of 2021. We actually just had like the year of his passing already, and I remember going through that with him his like last couple of months. Like I just was thinking about how talented my dad is. Like he was a fantastic musician. He could write, he could play, he was just good. Like he was like a musical engineer, and he passed a lot of that to me, and I'm like, I'm just sitting on this stuff, you know what I'm saying? And the Bible says your gifts will make way for you. And like a lot of times we're thinking like monetary, which is true if you get to a certain level, but it's not always just monetary. It's like really like walking and living in your truth and being obedient. God has a plan for us from day one, and we waste a lot of time just doing other things. Because I've been doing other things, right? It's like, I just turned 30, just put my first book out, which is not old, but it's like the book could have been out. It was written in 2016, and so like I was telling you a little bit earlier, I really wrote the book in like 2 days. Not even gonna hold you up. I think I started on like a Monday and it was like done by Wednesday. And we go back and we edit things and we change a lot, but the original content, it only took me like 48 hours. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's God. There's no way you can come up with like a story, like with a plot, like a beginning, a middle, an end, on your own that fast. I don't care what anybody says. You know, I meet a lot of artists that just don't believe in that stuff. And I'm like, no, this was not me. This was like, I just was being obedient and letting God use me and to be a tool to put this out. And so it didn't take me very long, but again, I was young and didn't have a lot of money. But when my dad got sick, and I just realized like all the work he never was able to really put out on any platforms and really make it like move and make ways for him, that is what really kicked my butt into gear. And I was like, I have to put this book out. I got really caught up with like the physical aspects of the book, like the font and the colors of the pages. And it was written so long ago. My first sample copies, they say Chantell Overstreet. Like, it's old. And it says like copywritten in 2017. Like, it was a quick turnaround. I had to change so much stuff. Like, my name was different. Right. My whole back of the bio, I don't think you'll be able to see it like here because I have my thing blurred, but this had to be like, or no, not this part, the about the author part, I had to completely change. Like, none of it was relevant anymore. It just was so, like, it took me a long time, Dom, to get myself together, but I finally did, and I'm like, that's okay. Yeah, I had to change this whole about the author, which is so funny. So originally, my about the author was present for 2017, and it was like, you know how you have to write it in third person, and it's like Chantell wants to pursue her graduate degree. You know, she's thinking about pursuing a graduate degree at ASU, and you know, I was like, eventually I want to have a family, and like just little key things that I manifested, Dom. Like, seriously, I got my master's, finished my master's, did very well, you know, and I met Bryant in 2016. I met him in 2016. We met at church, and like just manifested everything. Like, your words really do have power. And I remember you booked me for an event at the Rebel Lounge, and I did a poem about wanting to have children. And I can't think of like, I think it's called I Dream of You or something. And I literally was like having a conversation with my daughter and having a conversation with my son. This is before, you know, me and Brian were playing around. We have like an interesting story. It's our story, but it's interesting.
Saying, see, I've been praying for you and I haven't even met you yet. I've been praying for your greatness. So dear world, I leave you my daughter. I leave you my son. They are the only ones that can accurately continue my story once it's all said and done. Artistically yours, Chantell Monique.
But yeah, I was able to, and I was looking back at the original about the author, everything in there that was like in the future. You know, she wants to get a graduate degree. She wants to do well. She still has hopes of being a Black scholar. She wants to eventually have kids of her own to read this book to. And like, I have a daughter, you know what I'm saying? And she's great. She's sassy, but she's great. Yeah, and it's like, I can't wait for her to really grasp the concept that this book that I read to you in increments, because it's long, it's mine. You know what I'm saying? She's gonna be able to be like, bro, my mom put that book out that your mom has. Like, I hope that eventually it's like that for her, you know. So
yeah, because that's gonna be
have power, and it is crazy. But so my dad, really, that was I know I'm getting off topic, but my dad being sick and passing so young, he was extremely young. He passed when he was 45. Really put things in perspective for me, and I was like, I have to get this out. It doesn't matter. I wasn't in love with the artwork at first, and I just didn't like it. I don't know what it was. I was like, this is not what I envisioned. Even down to like the complexion, colors of the characters. I just was being extremely picky, which I think is in my own right. But then again, too, like, I have to come outside of myself and realize, like, the bigger picture is I have a book out. And that is, like, it's my first thing that I've really put out and published, and I'm really proud of it. And now I look at it and, like, I see it physically in my homie's hands, and I'm like, bro, I put a book out.
Yeah.
Thank God, you know? But, yeah, so that is what my dad passing, getting sick, passing, and knowing that he wasn't really able to get any of his stuff actually out on platforms is what really pushed me. And this book was written so long ago. It was dedicated to my great-grandmother when she passed. And so I'm working on another piece. It's already done. The writing's done. I'm just like working with a local artist. He's like my little cousin, and he is fire. like with drawing,
Mm.
dumb, like he is fire, but he's young and he's slow. And so I need him to give me these pieces, these like I need them back, but he's young again. And so I want to really work with him and really be able to put his stuff out too. So I'm working on a black poetry book for kids, like, and I think it's lit. I love it,
Yeah.
but I gotta. My cousin has to get the illustrations out, so that'll be the next thing that I'll put out.
Okay.
I haven't decided if I'm gonna like self-publish or try to find a publisher, but I need to get on that. But I want to like let this one take off a little bit first.
Right, yeah, definitely give it that time to develop. I know the music industry is a little different. Everybody's dropping singles every now and then, and no one project really has, time to breathe. So, I had one homie from ASU. He left like freshman year, after first semester, but like for the longest, he was like riding his single. I want to say almost 2, 3 years. He had a single, and he was like pushing it. Every comment, his dad would make a disc or whatever, a 4-track disc. Two of them have the single radio version, regular version. It's like some folks really, need to kind of give their projects like that time in, because like we can't keep up with like, that I don't want to like the A-list artists, if you will. Like we can't compare ourselves to like what they got going on. They on a different kind of algorithm altogether. Like we need to make sure the right amount of eyes like see what we have going on before we move on to like trying to push the next project. So definitely
Yes.
give it its time for sure, because like it's worth it. It's an amazing piece. And I want to ask you a little bit about like what's been your journey with like, all right, so as a creative, I find myself being super like hands on. Luckily, I do a lot of my own mixing and mastering when it comes to the audio things that I put out. But like, all right, when I was doing short films, that was kind of how we came onto the scene. We do like these short films with like a beat and poetry, and then we'll make the visual to match it. And I would do, the poem, or I'll do the visual, and we'll shoot it, and I'll send it to the editor, and then they start cutting up, certain parts of the poem is out of there, and they're just trying to make the best possible synthesized shortest thing. Like what's been your process with communicating with like the publisher and the editors about like what you're looking for? Like how did you learn to kind of let go some of that power and kind of let them do their job, if you will, and kind of
Mhm.
what was your experience with that?
At first it was rocky. Like I told you, it took me a long time, and really the reason it took so long to get the book out was because, I was going back and forth with them about certain things. For me, my biggest thing was financial availability. So like every time I low key wanted to change something, it would add on to my total cost. And so like I said back then, 2017 I started grad school. I mean, I was like working at Wells Fargo, not making any money. And so I didn't have a ton of money to put towards this project. Like it was a huge sacrifice to even start working with them back then. But I wanted to do it. I had a dream and I was like, I need to do this. This is like, I've always had a love for literature. And I think that has what really has pushed me and allowed me to have a different perspective as a reader. And so originally, the book was a little bit different and had a different ending. They had like the pages were like green with the writing, and I didn't like it. I have a very minimalistic style when it comes to certain things. Like I like black and white. My next book that I want to put out, I think it's going to be all black and white, no color. And I was like, no, I want to change this stuff. And so that was they were like, okay, but it's going to cost you money. It's going to push production out. You know how people are. They want to tell
Yeah.
you all the things. And I'm like, I don't care. Like, I don't like this. I need it to look how I wanted. But like you said, I wanted to completely change the illustrations. I just didn't like them. And I still haven't figured out why. I don't know. And so that was the hardest thing to be able to change. And eventually, like you said, I just had to be like my publication specialist, she really put it into perspective for me. She was like, do you want this to come out or no? It's up to you. And I was like, dang, well, yeah. But, and so some stuff I did have to let go. So they ended up changing the page colors for me to black and white, which can seem boring to some people, but that is just what my view was. And again, I like the minimalistic look. I didn't like the green. I was like, I don't like this. It doesn't even match. Like the book is like low-key dark. You know what I'm saying? Like it has a dark theme. So I didn't like it. And eventually I was like, okay, if the illustrations are the only thing that I cannot change in order to get the book out in 2022, I have to just do it. I'm like, they've changed everything else. They changed my name on the cover. They changed the ending. I added the ending. So originally, I was telling you that Originally, Joe did not come home. Sorry for anybody who has not read it yet. But originally, the dad just didn't come home, right? That was like my view of Black fatherhood. And I didn't even know that. Like, I've never been like a super resentful person and like trying to live my life based off of like what was happening with me and my dad. But I didn't even realize, like, Brian was like, so why doesn't the dad come home? And I was like, I don't know. He just doesn't. Like, that was the norm for me. Mm-hmm. And then I get married and I get to see my husband and our daughter's relationship. And it is insane, Dom. I'm like, whoa. So this is what it's like. Like, I'm so happy for her that she gets to have a present dad that like loves her. He goes above and beyond. He does all the things. It's insane. We are so blessed. And so then I was like, I have to change the ending of this book. Like, this does not make sense. Like, you know, that's not my experience anymore. Even though I didn't have that with my dad, I get to like be present for my daughter, having a present, loving, nice dad, right? Not the dad that just comes home and yells at everybody and makes all the money, but doesn't really hang out or anything. That is not going to be Noah's experience. And I'm really grateful for that, really blessed. And so then I changed the ending. They were cool with that. And at first it was an issue. When you first open the book, there is a scripture. So the book starts with the scripture, and said unto them, it is written, my house shall be called the house of prayer. Matthew 21:13. They did not want to put this in the book. And so I don't know why, because it's a Christian publishing company. They kept leaving it out of the book. Like, every sample they would send me, I'd be like, where's the scripture? They're like, oh, it just was left off. And I'm like, no, I'm not putting it out without the scripture. Like, that's what the whole book is about. Like, a family that prays together. Like, that was the theme. So there was a lot of stuff that I would not budge on. And I'm really glad, because it really speaks to like who I am. Like, we were talking about just growing up in the church. I'm churchy as hell. Like, and I'm proud of it. I love it. My daughter is super churchy already, Dom. Like, it's so funny. She's always like, I want to go to church. And I'm like, no, it's Wednesday. We're not going to church today. We're going to go on Sunday. Yeah. I have stuff I need to be doing. And she'll be like, hallelujah. She's hilarious. I'm going to have to like get a video of her, because she's churchy already and I'm here for it. Like, that's how I was raised. And so some stuff I was like, no, we can't do this. We're not leaving it out. You know, and they allowed me to add the part where I think at the end it said like the power of prayer works, which was not originally there. So some stuff I would not bend on, because I wanted it to be like a true depiction of like who I am. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, I don't want to just be putting stuff out that doesn't really represent who I am. So yeah, some stuff you cannot budge on, you know, and it could work out for you, which it did for me. And then some companies, it might not work for them. And I think that is a true representation of like, we just can't be working with everybody. You know what I'm saying? And that's okay for us. My family, there used to be like my grandpa, all my uncles are pastors. Like, my uncle is the pastor of my family church. It was passed down from their dad. And we just grew up very churchy, very Christian, Church of God in Christ. And my grandpa used to say, everything is not for us. You know, a lot of that worldly stuff, we're not going to be able to do. You have to set yourself apart. And so when I was younger, that was really hard. You know, we just wanted to have fun and hang out, right? And they were like, no, you know, we can't be, everything is not for us. And I think that really stuck with me coming into my artistry. You know, we got at ASU, we were exposed to so much stuff that I just had never been exposed to. But again, I think it's all about that foundation, like how we were raised, and like just remembering everything is not for us. So it was some stuff that I was like, if they don't do this, I'm not going to be able to put this out with them. And that was okay. And I think it took the time that it did, because it was supposed to take me this long to get it out. It was not ready back then. Again, I had a whole different perspective. I was like manifesting grad school, manifesting my daughter. Like, I really wanted to be married. I know a lot of my poems were relationship based. I had a really big like Black woman following, because I just was talking about different experiences and things like that. But ultimately, I did want to be married and I did want to have a family. And so I think it took me having that, and it took my dad passing, for me to be able to look at this piece in a different perspective. Just certain things I want my daughter to be able to look back and see, like, my mom really believed in this. Like, I make her say her prayers. Like, she, you know, she says like the eating one, because that's the one she can remember. And I don't like, I'm not crazy with her about it. Like she's 2. And so when I tell her to say her prayers, she says like, God is good, God is great. Thank you for the food in Jesus' name, amen. And I let her say it because that's the one she remembers, you know. And so in the car, I'm like, let's say our prayers, and I'll let her mimic me and stuff. But I want her to be able to look back and be like, my mom was really about this life. Like she didn't let people play with her and, bend to just get something out. I don't ever want to be like that, you know.
No, that's super powerful. And you talked about like stuff being for you and not for you. So yeah, let's transition real quick because we're coming up on the end here. I want to thank you again for your time and spending a little bit of your Saturday with me. Like you're a mom and a wife, and you're working on your doctor. There's plenty of shit you could be doing, and sitting on Dom's podcast is one. So thank you, I appreciate it. But yeah, some of the things that are for you, like what do you enjoy doing? Like what do you spend some of your like free time doing? So I guess it's a 2-part question because like you got a family, so like the time that you get with your family, what do you like doing? And then if at all, anytime you get to yourself, like what do you enjoy doing?
So right now, I love to read, Dom. I always have. Like that was like my escape when I was younger. I just was always like curled up in a book. My sister that I was raised with on my mom's side, she's 5 years younger than me, or like 4.5, some parts of the year 5. So I was just by myself a lot, and so I would just read. I love to read, Dom. And I know it's crazy because I'm in a doctoral program, so I have to read all day. But I still find time to read my leisurely books. Love it. I have a library card that I keep very active every year. My friends laugh at me because I'm going to keep that library card activated, okay? Because I'm going to read these books and I'm going to read them for free. So I use Hoopla, which is like a digital library app.
Okay.
And you literally can just check out audiobooks. You can check out ebooks. You can check out like CDs. It's all kind of stuff on there. DVDs. Yeah. So I use Hoopla, which is free with the library card. And I also use OneDrive, which is also free with the library card. So I'm really into audiobooks because I'm really busy. And so I just get in the car and I throw on a book. If I'm by myself, depending on what it is, a lot of stuff Noah can't listen to. But yeah, I like when I'm at work and I'm prepping for my next like day's appointments, I just throw my audiobook in my ear. I'm really into urban fiction. Love it. I love everything Black. So, these books like turn me up. I'd be like, he did what? Getting all into it. But so I'm really into books, always have been. I read so much. I was able to read a ton of stuff this summer, just with audiobook, just listening in the car. Like I'll walk to the MU sometimes because I work in the education building. And so that's like a, 5-10 minute walk depending on how fast I'm walking. That could be a whole chapter. Like I'm getting these books in. So that's my thing. I take my daughter a lot. I try to be very active with her, take her to a lot of birthday parties. So that's fun for me because I grew up really different just because my mom was a lot younger. And so like when my mom was at school and stuff, I was always with my grandmother. And my grandma was so active. Like, she would go to all my stuff, all the concerts, all the dance concerts. At one point, I was telling my husband, I used to play softball and I was terrible at it. And my grandma used to come all the time. Like, she was there and I was bad. I really remember being not good at this. I don't know who let me on the team. That's not my ministry. And so, my grandma was so active, so powerful, like such an amazing Black woman to have, like, as an example. And so I want to be able to be that for Noah. So, I take her to all the birthday parties and it's a lot. And, I had to tell her last week, I said, all right, now this behavior needs to get together because mommy takes you to a lot of fun places. And that is my free time, and I still do it. I love it. I do all the things. I have a lot of fun with her. So that is a part of like something that I really enjoy doing with her. Just being able to take her places. Like she has a lot of energy. So we take her to a lot of like bouncy places, and that stuff costs money, but it's fun for her. She loves it. And she like remembers those things. So I do a lot of that with her. And then just going on dates with my husband. We love it. We don't go out a lot. Again, we have a 2-year-old and, it's COVID. So it gets weird with like sitters and things like that. But really being with my family, my husband, my daughter, and reading. Those are like my 3 things that just keep me chill. Yeah.
That's amazing. So what, if you can, just 1 or 2, maybe 3 books that you've gotten a chance to enjoy this summer that you want to shout out?
Yes. Let me get my little library app up because it's hot and so with my library app, you can check out 21 books a month.
Oh, wow.
Which is lit. Like that's a lot of books. I don't ever hit 21, but it's a ton of books. So this summer, some of my favorites, I read The Beach House, which is a 3-book series by Rochelle. I think her last name is pronounced Ehlers. She's a Black woman author. And The Beach House is, again, a 3-part series. It's a book about books, Dom. So it lit me up. Like, it's like these Black women, they start this book club, which is my life personified.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so good. It was beautifully written. It was really good. It was cultured. You know, I'm all about it. So that is a really good series. Any woman that's looking to read a book about books, that was awesome. I'm on the 3rd book right now. I also read Lovecraft Country by Matt Ruff. I think his full name is like Matthew Ruff. It was amazing, Dom. If you have any time to read any book, read it. I don't know if you were
Okay.
able to watch the show. So I watched the show first. It's on HBO Max. I'm really late. I didn't get to watch it when it came out because, again, we have to shield a lot of things that we watch and listen to with a 2-year-old in the house. So a lot of times I can't really watch TV until she goes to sleep. And then when she goes to sleep, it's really time for me to be like doing homework or like going to sleep myself.
Mm.
And so I'm like 2 years late on the show, but I finally watched it. It was brilliant. But the book was so good. So anybody that is looking for a good novel, Lovecraft Country took me out, Dom. It was so good. It was amazing. So that's
Okay.
one of my like favorites of all time. And then another book I read this summer, let me see. Let me look at my complete history. Okay, so right now I'm reading a murder mystery by Caleb Carr. It's the Alienist series. That is also a TV show on HBO Max. I haven't watched it yet because I'm trying to get through the 2nd book. It's a 4-part series, really good. It's not Black, but it again, it's like murder mystery, psychological. It's written in like 1986, so it's back in the day. Might be a little bit earlier. I could have that time period wrong. It is good. It's really good. Now it's dark. I like dark stuff. I don't know where I got that, but like it's dark. It's about a killer that like targets a certain population. I'm not gonna
Uh,
say which because it's like very specific and weird. But um, I loved it. I was all about it. Like and it's murder. It's in it. I learned so much. So I realized I like to read because it teaches me things that I would not normally be exposed to.
mm.
So I'm reading this psychological series. It took me a little bit to like get into it. Again, it's white, and so like the narrator is white, and so sometimes I have to like be prepared for that. I read a lot of like urban fiction, and the narrators are like Black men and women who are speaking in like a cadence that we talk in. So sometimes
Yeah.
when I switch over to other books, it takes me a little bit of time to like get into it. But once I got into it, I was learning so much about psychology, which was my original major. So I
Mm.
think that's why I really get into like books and stuff too, because it taught me a lot, like just terms that I didn't know about, like psychological theory and things like that, which ties into my doctoral program, believe it or not. So I read a lot of these books and I take a lot of it back and I am able to use it in my research and stuff, which is nice.
Oh, nice. Okay, that's amazing. I'm gonna have to share some of these with Jade. I don't read too much fiction. I'm kind of boring with my reads, like practicing peace or different
Yes.
meditation stuff. And I got this one like 5, think ahead business strategy kind of crap. But she loves murder mystery, so I'm definitely gonna hook her up on that because she's reading like 2 books a month right now, and
Love that.
Lovecraft Country too, since they're on HBO Max. Shout out to Issa Rae getting all these black folks with an HBO Max subscription.
Yes, because she's really the only reason I had it. I'm not even gonna hold you up. I
For
was not
sure.
paying for that before Insecure came out 5 years ago.
No,
Um,
100%.
yeah, 100%. But both of those books, Lovecraft Country and The Alienist, were turned into motion picture series, and they're both on HBO. So if you're into like shows, I have not watched the Alienist show yet because I'm trying to finish the 2nd book because there's only 2 seasons.
Hmm.
But that's my thing too. I love to read, and then I'll watch, like if it's been turned into a movie or a show, I'll watch it and I compare, and it gets crazy. Like I'm crazy
Mm.
with it. I'm like critiquing everything. Like that's like a thing for me. But yeah, I like to do it.
Okay, and then one note I want to touch on real quick. I'll get you out of here soon. You were talking about like when you're talking about reading books and kind of consuming that content. You're also talking about audio books. How do you have a preference? Like, are you able to retain better with one or the other, or they're kind of equal to you just based on your ability to multitask?
I think because I have to multitask so much, and I'm terrible. Nobody should be like me. So I'll literally be like studying for school, and sometimes I will have a book playing in my ear. It's not healthy. It like cannot be healthy. So I'm literally like reading for school, but then I'm listening to this other book that is a completely different thing. Um, I think for me, because I always have had to be a really big multitasker, just being in school and working, I can do the audiobooks. I know some people, they don't retain it like that, like they're not focused. But for me, it works better because of time. I really don't have time to like sit down and open a book. I don't ever have that much time. Before I started my doctoral program, I read Moby Dick because I had not read it, which I know is like a little kid book, but it's kind of long. So I read the condensed version of Moby Dick, and it was cool, but I was like, I would have just got this so much better if I had have listened to it, because I've trained myself to just like listen to books all day every day whenever I have a free second. Like, I've been really getting into cooking since being married, and so when I cook, instead of just cooking in silence, I'll just throw an audiobook in. And so for me, I'm able to retain the information better by hearing it.
Mm-hmm.
I think because I've been doing it for so long. So I know some people, they have to like feel a book and smell it and feel the pages. I'm not there. I'm like, nope, I need it to be in my ear while I drive, while I'm cleaning. That's like so fun for me, so that I can keep the information a little bit better. And then I can like replay it. Sometimes I'll find myself, I'm not paying attention, and I'll hear something that I know is important, and then I'm able to go back and just like
Mm-hmm.
listen to it again. And I'm like, oh, I get what they were saying. Yeah, so.
Yeah. No, I think I got introduced to Audible maybe a year ago, like on some kind of discount, Amazon Prime, whatever, and I was like, wow, like, because I bought Barack's book, but then I was like, yo, this is mad long. Like, I'm not gonna hold this 700-page thing, but like, I could listen to the audiobook. He talks a little slow, so you speed it up a bit, and it's like a decent pace. So no, I definitely enjoy him too, and I'm back and forth. Like, Jade and I, we do like a little date night on Wednesdays, and 50% of them are going to the bookstore, honestly, and just like walking around there for a few hours and like trying to just get some stuff to come back with and get us through the next month or two. So now, shout out to you. I'll definitely look at some of these right here and try to see if we can grab a couple. She just joined the book club, so I'm sure she's got specific stuff she's gonna be reading, but like in the
Yeah.
leisure time, there's some other things in there we can get going.
I love that for you guys, and I'm definitely gonna steal that. For sure, we need to be hitting Barnes and Nobles, all the thrifts, and I get a lot of books from Goodwill. So if anybody is like booking on a budget,
Mm-hmm.
Goodwill, listen, you're getting 50 books for $10, like maybe less. Like
Right.
I started my daughter a library when I was pregnant. So I just would go into Goodwill and like buy a book or two, like maybe even 10, because I'm crazy with books. And so she has so many books. I really need to organize it. I'm trash. But I bought a lot of her books from Goodwill. I'm not even gonna hold you up. And I just sanitized them, Lysol that little sticker off, and a lot of people they try to take good care of books. I think like books are really important. I'm like teaching my daughter; she does not take care of them, and I'm like, you don't treat books that way. We want to be able to pass this on to somebody else. And
Right.
so, yeah, Goodwill, that's where it's at.
Good. Well, okay. Nice. Yeah, I'm gonna have to add that. I just been mostly changing hands, Barnes and Noble, or just like some random hole in the wall spot that's selling books or like whatever they got going on. So as we close here, I want to just give you an opportunity to kind of share any words of wisdom of someone, to someone that could have been in your position 2016, 2015, like what what things would you have wanted to hear at that point in your life? I mean, nothing's going to erase the actual experience, of living
Mhm.
what you lived and actually manifesting those visions. But like any words of encouragement that you'd pass to someone that's kind of in your shoes at that point in your life?
Yeah, for sure. That's a great question. Thank you. Even just like if I were able to talk to myself now, 2022, like coming to a close, almost end of the year, in 2017, I would have definitely told myself, give yourself grace. I think artistry is a gift from God, no matter what you're doing, no matter how you're using it, no matter the content you're putting out. We were giving these things, right? It wasn't just like you just woke up one day and was just really good at this. I don't care what anybody says. Like, it is something that God had planned for you. Now, whether you utilize your skill or put it out is 100% up to you, because He did give us free will. And so give yourself grace and always practice gratitude. I thank God for the ability to write. Somebody can't sit down and write something, and that I try to keep myself humble. We were also raised like very humble, never get too big for your britches. You're not the greatest at anything, no matter what. You probably won't be. You can be good in your craft, right? But there's always going to be somebody that's going to be better than you, which I think is humbling, because it'll keep you practicing, it'll keep you hungry. So a lot of that stuff, if I would tell myself, give yourself grace. You don't have to turn out all these projects super, super fast. Like you said, we have to let stuff breathe. And when I first started, I used to try to write like a new poem every day, which is like crazy. If you know what I'm saying? Like then I used to be like forcing myself to write and make things rhyme, and it just didn't, it became not fun anymore. And then the content isn't good. You're like, this is trash. I'm like, green machine. Like, what is this? Like, you know, but so give yourself grace, be kind to yourself, right? We need to be kind and really stay grateful, practice gratitude, and just listen to God. Like I'm really big on obedience. It could be because I have a 2-year-old that does not listen right now. So y'all pray for me. But you have to be obedient. Like and do things to feed your spirit. Like I really started I started fasting from 9 to 9, just something simple. Just like taking out food and meat and sugar and like not healthy stuff. And just like fasting from 9 to 9, I'm really able to just pray and hear God and feed my spirit in the mornings, you know, before I get started. Yeah. And that really has helped me too, which I was not doing back then. I was like drinking, eating pizza every night, like just trash, right? But feed your spirit, be kind to yourself, practice gratitude, pray, just pray. Like I just talked to God and he really like, I specifically asked for him to give me the ears to hear him when he's speaking to me and like give me the eyes to be able to see the signs that he's showing me, because a lot of what I do I would not be able to do without the grace of God. Like it just would not happen.
Okay, no, that's super powerful. Have you ever thought about doing any kind of public speaking stuff? You're really good at like getting the message and the idea of like what you're looking to say out, and I feel like you could definitely charge up a room.
Well, thank you, I appreciate that. I actually haven't ever thought about it. Like I don't know. I haven't, but I really appreciate that. I don't know if I've heard that before, but I'll have to like keep that in mind.
For sure, yeah. Not just the pod, but even at the conference, I was looking back at some of the media, and I'm like, man, I should have gave her own section for sure. Like,
you're so funny.
For sure. So, you know, anything coming in the future, I'll definitely keep you posted on that. I'd love for you to be able to just see what you can do with a full hour of like, you know, what information you'd have to give to a room of people kind of looking for information.
Yes. I would love that. Like I really would. I'm all about like the betterment of our community. That's like why I keep going back to school. Not to plug my doctoral program or anything, but like my research will be, I'll be examining the Black undergraduate students that are taking classes in the college that I work for, and just how we can improve their experience academically and emotionally. They're attending PWIs, they're paying a ton of money, they need to be supported properly, and so I'm all about it.
Absolutely. And where can folks follow you?
Instagram, I think it's still Chantell Monique.
Got a rebrand coming or something?
Listen, I'm trying to rebrand. I had changed it to like Madam Rodgers, but I'm pretty sure it's still Chantell Monique. I want to rebrand a little bit because Monique is my middle name and I dropped it when I got married. And so then now I'm just Chantell Rodgers, which I love. Thank God for the husband. But I think you can still look it up as Chantell Monique. It might come up as Madam Rodgers. So that is Instagram. I'm not really on anything else very heavily, but even on Twitter, I'm still Chantell Monique, I believe. I think you can look up Chantell Rodgers and find me. I'm terrible. I don't know why I don't know my tags anymore, but I think it's because I'm like trying to live my real life. But
for sure, and that's super important.
That's where I'm primarily at. Instagram. You can find me on Twitter. I'm on Facebook as Chantell Rodgers, but I'm literally never on Facebook. I'm super active on Instagram. I love it. It's like my favorite. Spend way too much time on it, but yeah, I'm there, and we might see a rebrand soon. I kind of started like changing everything a little bit slowly when I got married, but yeah.
Okay, no, for sure. Again, thank you so much for your time. This has been the Culture Convos podcast, where we got to talk with Chantell Rodgers about her life and journey in this art stuff, this life stuff, and her recent release, The Praying Hand. So be sure to buy that.
got it down. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I feel you. Kind of same here too, but like I just kind of go for it. I call myself out sometimes for being a procrastinator. I'm a part of so many people's creative journeys, and I watch them put out things, and I often watch or look at my workflow or my process, and I'm like, man, I'm bullshitting. I told myself that I wanted to do this and I haven't done it, so those moments are usually like just those impulse moves, and I'm like, yo, I got all this shit on my hard drive, let me just organize it, find this theme, link up with somebody, create the graphics. But I think the one that I'm working on now is probably the thing that I've given the most time and attention to, and probably because of not having to do so many events or focus too much on the Iron Root brand itself, I got to really just dive in on like what the hell Dom wants to do, or like what things I want to talk about in my art specifically. That's why I really haven't been doing too much poetry on stage and doing much at all, because I was just like, yo, all right, I came up with a lot of that shit I was spitting when I was like younger, and now that I've evolved, I'm trying to figure out, I've figured out, where I want to take it next. So yeah, just, I don't know. I don't have no method to the madness. It's honestly, I'm just like, I get so caught up in the everyday, and then I take a breath and I'm like, yo, I have it right here in front of me. I just need to do it, to release it. If that's that music project, Late Night Radio, or if it's the book I published called Deep. And now it's more so just like, yo, that's me telling myself like, shut up, bro. Like, you're waiting on the editor, you're waiting on yada, yada, yada. Whatever I'm telling myself all these years as to why I didn't do something, it was just like, all right, stop bullshitting, put it out, move on. If it hits, it hits. If not, it doesn't. But the main thing is like putting something out and then moving forward from it, not getting so caught on to everything being my baby. Like, oh, I gotta love it and make sure it gets the best possible exposure. It's just like, bro, who cares? Nobody really in the larger picture. I care, but like to the point that I'm like obsessing about it, like it's not that big of a deal.
Okay. That is like really humbling, because that is why it took so long for this book to actually come out. Because if you remember, I wrote the book in like 2016. Like it didn't take me very long. I literally like you said, just trying to like figure out who I was creatively, and like putting all this thought in like how people perceived me when I was out, and like, was I really an artist? Was I really like just this feminist poet? And I got too like in my head about like how I wanted to be perceived as an artist, which, like you said, who cares? I don't think anybody really cares about any of that stuff. Like, and so originally I wrote the book really quick. It was like a really quick turnaround. And that's how it's God. It's like, there's no way I can come up with all this stuff in such a short amount of time. I think the actual writing of the book was like 2 days. I'm not even kidding. And that's only because I worked full time. Like, if I really was able to sit down and hone in on my craft, I would have so much more stuff out. It's just like, it took me forever. So then I wrote the book. I linked up with like Christian Faith Publishing Company, which they're really cool, but it's a publishing company to where you basically pay them to do the editing, to do the artwork, and to put your stuff out on these platforms that like I wouldn't have access to by myself. So I was like, okay, if this is how I have to do the first one, that's totally fine. For one, I was hella broke back then, so it took me forever to like get those balances paid. So that was a really big part of the process. And then like I just was fighting with them about like how I wanted the book to look like physically. So we were going back and forth, and then every time I wanted to change something, you have to like pay more money, and that was a really big issue, right? And so then I just stopped, and I was like, I don't like how this looks. This is not the vision that I had for myself. They're telling me it's going to cost me like, thousands of more dollars to be able to actually like change some things. And so then I took a full break from it. I just stopped production. I stopped paying. I stopped answering emails. I was just like, I don't think this is going to be able to come out, because I was just so caught up in like the illustration and, just like, I just was caught up. I don't know why I was like so fixated. Maybe because, like you said, it's my first piece that I've actually put out. So I was very meticulous, just not low-key hard to work with almost. You know what I'm saying? They're like sending me all this stuff. I'm turning everything down. So the lady was like, look, either you want this to come out or you don't. It's really up to you. We have other things that they're not going to stop, So I got married. Actually got pregnant, got married. That's a long time. Like, you're pregnant for a year. We were paying for a wedding for a year. So that whole time, the book was completely on hold. And then my dad got sick again at the beginning of 2021, and he was sick the entire year. And my dad was really young. My dad passed when he was 45. He would have been 46 this year in
Mm.
2022. And so that really put things in perspective for me. And I was just like, we really don't know how long we have here.
Mm.
And my dad was a great musician, Dom. I don't know if you ever got to work with him, but a lot of the poetry stuff we used to do together, my dad was playing the drums at, but people just didn't know. Like
Mm.
a lot, like back in the day when we would perform at a lot of those clubs downtown, my dad was
Mm.
playing there. Like we just weren't cool. So like, we'd be at the
Gotcha.
same venues. He's like playing the music and I'm just like looking at him like, bro, and so
Understand.
that was a thing too. And so I feel like I missed a lot of opportunities to like collab with my dad because he was great. Like he was lit. And then he passed really young. He never really put any music out. He didn't really get to put any music out. My dad was old school. Like even some of the stuff that I listen to now, I'm like, this is like old nigga music, but it was good. Like it was
Yeah.
like 90s. It was good. And we grew up in the church, so a lot of it was very churchy. His vocals were very churchy. And I was just like, I have to get something out. Like that is just like the one thing I will say my dad definitely blessed a lot of me and my siblings with was his artistry. Like my dad could play the drums. My dad could play like every instrument. He played the keys, he played the organ. Again, when you grow up in church, like they just throw you on stuff. They're
Yeah.
like, go play this. Like,
Mm.
and then he could sing low key, he could write, he could do all these things. And like when I seen him like be really sick, like he was nonverbal by the time he passed, like he couldn't walk. I don't think he could really see very well. um I believe he can hear us. I do believe that, the Lord allowed him to like hear what a lot of us had to say toward the end. And at that moment, I was like, I'm going to put the book out. It doesn't matter. This stuff doesn't matter. Like, I cannot leave here without not putting anything out officially. And
Yeah.
so that really pushed me. And it literally, I talked to my husband about it and I was like, because it does cost money. He's like, let's just do it. Like, just do it. You do it. It doesn't matter. Like, he's like, we have money. Like, realistically, a lot of times it'll be like, well, I can't spend money on this. But then we go out to eat and we have a kid now. And like, that's weird, right? So she eats too. And it'll be like $80 for us to eat at like a regular place, Dom. Nothing
Yeah.
fancy, you know, just like and I'm like, whoa, this costs a
Yeah.
lot of money, but I could be putting that money towards my craft. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Like, I spend a lot of time doing other stuff. I'm not going to hold you up. Like, I am busy, but I'm not that busy to where I can't be like putting the time and the financial needs into my craft. And so I just did it. And I paid my little, like, I was like, I'm going to pay this. And the lady, when I started working with her again, my publication specialist, she's like, okay, we have to get your payments like on time every month. And she's like, I know you had stopped a lot back in the day. And I was like, no, I'm in a whole different place. Like, I'm grown, I'm married. Like, I'm not, I was in, I think, grad school the first time. So really had no money back then. And so I was like, no, I'm gonna do it. And she's like, okay, I'm gonna have you re-sign your contract. And she's like, we need a payment today. I was like, done. And they finished the production. They were like, here's the document that I need you to fill out. And Dom, I changed everything. I changed the font. I changed the colors of the pages, just like
Mm.
everything. I changed the ending of the book. Originally, when I wrote the book, the dad, he just really didn't come home. And
Mm.
so that was my perception of like fatherhood, right? Which is hella depressing. You're trying to put this book out on the market and the black dad doesn't come home. And so my husband was like, I need you to change this. And so
Mm.
I was like, yeah, you're right. I need to
I
change
feel it.
this. And so then I changed the end, and my mom was like, does the dad come home? I'm like, yeah, the dad comes home. I have finally got myself together and like, forgave my dad. I got to
Wow.
talk to him that last year, those last couple of months, and I was really blessed. So my dad got sick in March of 2021 and my birthday is in March. And I remember my aunt had called me on my birthday and I was thinking she was like calling to say happy birthday. And really she was like, your dad's in the hospital and it's not good. And that was in like March of 2021. And so I was like, okay. And I had prayed about it. I had talked to Brian about it a little bit because I really hadn't seen my dad like in years.
Mm.
But we hadn't really talked. Like talking was very sporadic, especially during the pandemic. And so I had talked to my aunt on March 24th on my birthday of 2021. and my dad was in the hospital for like 2-3 weeks. He got released, and he had to be released into somebody's care because there was just all this medicine he had to take. He had like fallen down and hit his head. It just was a lot. And so they released him into my grandma's care, his mom's care. And she lives like in Maricopa. And like a month later, I had been praying about it. And Brian was like, you need to go see your dad. Like, he's very different from me. He's very like, he's just logical, right? Like, and in tune with, he has an emotional intelligence, which I'm like getting better at. I have it now, but I didn't used to. And I prayed about it, and the Holy Spirit was like, go see your dad, period. And I really work to be obedient. That's one of the things that we're really big with Noah about. And so I can't not be obedient when everything about how I raise my daughter is grounded in obedience. And so I was like, okay, I called my husband. I was like, hey, can you come with me? I just don't want to drive out there by myself, super far. He's like, yeah, I'll get the baby ready. I got off work, came to pick him up. We picked my daughter up, and we drove out there. And I called my dad on the phone, and I was like, hey, he didn't even have my number. And he's like, hey, is this Shani? And I was like, yeah, how are you? And he's like, and me and my dad, we like, he was hilarious, Dom. Like, it's weird. He was so funny. And I think that's where I get a lot of my like comedic side too. And my daughter is like so goofy, so funny. So even things like that, like that's a whole nother generation. So me and my dad were like laughing at each other. Mind you, this man has been in the hospital. The first time we talked in probably a year, we're just cracking jokes on each other. It was a really good conversation. And so I was like, are you up to have visitors? And he's like, you're going to drive to Maricopa? And I was like, yeah. Like, I was like, I'm not like you. I'll come where I need to be. And so we're like laughing. And he's like, all right, I'm going to send you the address. And so he sends me the address. We drive out there that same day. And I got to talk to my dad, like really talk to my dad. He met my daughter for the first time. He met Bryant for the first time because he had not even met them. Noah was like 2 years old, never met my dad. Yeah, it was insane, Don. We talked for hours, and he told me like a lot about his childhood, a lot about why he really wasn't around. And he apologized to me, and it was very sincere. And I apologized to him because I used to be a little disrespectful when I was younger. And, he was like, I love you. And I was like, I'll see you again. Like, this is not, we're going to get this together. And like a month later, he was back in the hospital, and he was like nonverbal on oxygen. He couldn't breathe on his own. And so like, I just think like, if I hadn't have been obedient, I would not have had been able to have a conversation with my dad before he passed, because he was literally sick the rest of the year. He got put in hospice. We put him in hospice. It was bad. Like, he couldn't talk, like nothing. And so I was just really grateful that I got to have that conversation with him, and he got to meet my daughter. And I think that's what really sparked me. And I was like, I need to get myself together. Like, I need to be who I really want to be. All this like waiting, and that's a big thing for me. I always feel like a bunch of things have to be in place in order to really like take that next step and do that next thing, which is not really real. And so, bro, when my dad passed, I was like, I have to get myself together. I had been talking about getting my doctorate forever. Like, ever since I was little, I was like, I'm going to be a Black scholar. Like, that was just like my thing. School was my thing. It was what I was good at.